I don't know. People are fucking loving it.
I don't understand.
I didn't hate it. Well, at what point? At different points in the movie, I felt strongly both ways. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your new favorite pop culture YouTube channel, maybe, where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned. On today's episode, we're just going to talk a little bit about Avatar 2, The Way of Water.
Either a little bit or forever.
Stronghold.
Okay, he's 21.
Spider?
Yeah. God knows how old he was when they filmed this thing. If you're watching this video, you already know the story. You know what it is. You know the background. Maybe you've even watched our Avatar 1. We were not aggressively anti-it, but we're also not really... we're very sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
And we really like whimsy, and we really like, you know, spectacle, and we're all here for the water porn, love
course.
mermaids,
Absolutely.
love monsters. Well, you and Will hated it. Hated it. Will hated it the most.
Will hated it the most. There are parts of this I like a little.
That makes me more inclined to defend it a little bit, or that makes me want to be more
I can't
of a middle.
defend it. I liked some parts of it. I can't defend it. And the part I liked the most is they didn't necessarily spend the least amount of time on it, but they didn't spend enough time on it for what feels like is going to be a huge part of 3, 4, and 5, which I am very anti-seeing and in this moment.
Okay, my two biggest issues. The first was I don't know if it was unique to our screening or if it was whatever presentation we had, but the frame rate was unforgivable.
It's on purpose.
Why?
James Cameron seriously considered shooting the entirety of the Avatar sequels in a higher frame rate by stating, "The 3D shows you a window into reality. The higher frame rate takes the glass out of the window."
But no, it doesn't look real.
It looks bad.
Yeah, it didn't look real.
It looks like sports.
It was too clear, but also I felt like I was watching Kingdom Hearts randomly in the middle of entire scenes, and we weren't in a proper IMAX,
we weren't in an
all
IMAX,
of that,
but
and from what I hear, that's how it's supposed to be. But that's also not a business model. Like, that's not a sustainable business model.
Like 1.5 IMAX theaters within driving distance of where we live. That's unsustainable. You can't be like, I made this for IMAX, and it's going to look like shit everywhere else.
Don't they seat like 400 people with 20 of which seats are optimal? Like only the certain.
It's only in the middle.
Not a sustainable thing. And so I liked the 3D. I like 3D when it's done well, and I found it intriguing and immersive here. And I really liked the sort of sequences, the water porn, the planet Earth, all of that National Geographic stuff. I would have been fine to watch, 45 to 90 minutes of just that, like a screensaver, as like a theme park attraction, or go to a museum or something.
Like Soarin', but this,
But my personal issue, and I'm stating that because it is me. It's not necessarily a critique to a movie, but I cannot get into the story. I find
that is a critique of the movie.
Sure, I think it works for some people, but I find the plot and the story of both of these movies offensive. They offend my sensibilities.
Yeah, it's also they're lessons that we shouldn't have to.
Learning. They're lessons that many, 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 many people still need to learn. And I don't mean this in a pretentious, smug pat on the back, but I don't need it. I don't need to watch atrocities in my Christmas blockbuster movies. And certainly...
Do you know what, as a human society, we've all decided is wrong? Whaling. There is an entire subplot in this movie
I didn't know if I could watch.
About whaling. If you are in any way squeamish about the fact that whales travel in pods and they're very, very family oriented and that they will mourn for the rest of their lives over their dead, you don't want to see this movie, because about halfway through, there is a nauseating whale hunt, and it is tragic and disgusting. And for given how much these movies purport to be about, like, a love of nature and the balance of nature and all of this, they obviously, the white man goes right ahead and just, like, leaves the rest of the carcass after they get what they wanted from the whale. It's truly horrible. I've never seen something so horrible in a scripted film before. I hated it. I
mean, maybe the scene is in White Squall, where is it Ryan Phillippe?
Where they're whaling?
Where he has to kill the dolphin. Like, I truly hated that part of it. And I don't think the story really made sense, because I don't understand. It's Stephen Lang. So he's back, and he is either back or not, depending on what scene in the movie. Because there's a scene where he's like, I'm not that person. Yeah. Like, they make an avatar of him and put his memories in it, and he's out for bloody revenge, that we know. And the depths that they are willing to go to, and the resources they are willing to sink into this vendetta.
That's the thing, too, is, like, at what point do you realize you're outmatched? Because the Na'vi are, like, with spears and arrows taking down what have to be $50 billion spacecrafts. And I'm just like, at what point do you realize that, like, maybe there's another moon on the other side of the planet that you could go to?
And I mean, I know that he had scenes with Edie Falco, who was a general. They were so long ago, I don't really remember if there was anything of any consequence in them. Like, why is she allowing this to happen? This because it is a personal vendetta.
It is. It 100% is.
It's not.
Also, but it takes like 16 years for them to upload his consciousness into this avatar and
again, I'm sure they explained it. I didn't retain
it. I don't think they did. But, like, Jake and Neytiri have an entire family with 2 teenage sons.
Which I didn't like how they treated her character.
I was not done with Edie Falco, because the most important part of this movie is that she is wearing a mech suit at one point, and then they go inside and she's still in the mech suit so that she can be on eye level with him, and she's, like, telling him everything, and she's drinking a coffee, but she's not holding the coffee in her human hand. The mech suit is holding the coffee in the robot hand, and she's drinking it. Which means that her hand is over here.
Pantomime drinking.
And the cup is here.
That's some hand-eye coordination I could not muster. I could not pull that off.
I was straight up baffled. I leaned to my husband and I was like, why is the robot hand holding the coffee? He goes, this is fucking stupid.
I didn't like what they did to Neytiri. The heteronormative patriarchy.
Really bad.
The just shadow over this entire, like, I was like, I didn't know that, like, 4 alien worlds were going to be so heteronormative. Like,
so, yeah,
because it's all about him. It's the Jake Sully show. It's Jake Sully, Jake Sully, Jake Sully. There's no notion that she is actually one of these people, and that she is the quote unquote princess of these people.
Here's the other thing as well. There is an episode of New Girl where Jess is getting left out of, like, the Tuesday meeting, and she thinks it's like a boys club thing. And that is what happens in this movie, because at one point, at the beginning, when they realize that Quaritch is back, she's like, well, let's go kill him. Like, let's go fight him. We'll fight right now. We'll, like, whatever. We can definitely do it. Let's do it. And he's like, I could never risk our people. And then they fucking peace out to the ocean place.
He makes her leave. He literally is like,
you have to leave your family. You have to leave your title, your honor. I'm not going to be chief anymore. We're going to do this whole thing. And then
they have to pantomime killing him, because that's how they
transfer the power. And then it's not until later, after they've decimated, like, 14 ocean villages, and he's like, we have to fight back. And I'm like, I fucking swear to God. He had, like, a whole regiment built with the forest people. They were, like, taking down Meglavs or whatever they were calling it, the trains, and they were taking down airships, and they were taking down everybody. And then at the first sign of like his scary danger, it was like, oh, we have to leave. And in doing so, tons of people die.
They also kill the whale and the baby. I can't remember if they like murder the baby or if it just dies of heartbreak.
They die if their mothers are dead.
Yeah.
They can't.
We got to see them both, and then we got to see Kate Winslet mourn it.
Mm-hmm.
And it like
baffling use of Kate Winslet. Baffling use.
And is it offensive?
It's not offensive. I mean, you're still pantomiming an accent that isn't yours, even if you're done up in blue makeup.
But it was a little coded. Like it was sort of like, I don't know. Because I don't want to say something offensive. It felt there was something about knowing that tribal woman was Kate Winslet that didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, well, and Will said too, like there's other like Cliff Curtis is playing her king.
And he was good.
And he was quite good.
That was the other thing. I didn't like her. I was actually so excited for her character, and I hated her. The only one of the water people that I like Cliff Curtis and the daughter. Yeah. That's the other thing is I was like, this world was presented to us as utopia. Why was everybody terrible?
Why
were the
so
forest
mean,
Navi so
angry?
mean?
Yeah.
And so they like the children were bullying. Like they were so mean to Spider. I really liked Spider, and I thought I was terrified the whole movie that he was going to prioritize Quaritch because that's his father. And
which they really try to lampshade as if we don't know for 100% sure.
But it's like it basically just splits the difference because no, he doesn't betray them until, and even this isn't necessarily a betrayal, but it's like until the very end when he rescues Quaritch. And I don't understand why he would do that.
I don't either.
That motivation, it did not suit his character, his entire character arc, how upset he was by the whaling, how like, and because I leaned over to you at one point, and I forget what it was, but I was like, my boy Spider, I was rooting for him because Neytiri was mean to him. Why was she pulling a Caitlin Snow with
she just was like,
Stark?
He belongs with his own people, which like...
I didn't like that. I was like...
kind of, but
has
there's also...
Has she seen the first movie?
I mean, Jake belongs with his own people. He shouldn't. All of this is his fault.
Well, he's coming in and perverting these.
Yeah,
like
it's all his fault.
Because not only is the mother and baby whale killed, but while they're trying to find him, they're just going from island nation to island nation, and they have like Loch Ness monster buddies, kind of like the Banshee.
So tight, but they're like water. And then they have the like men, the hunters have like flying fish that are like.
That was very fun and silly because they come out of the water except for the very bottom of their tails, which go.
Yeah, very silly.
But yeah, they're like trying to get her to talk, and it's all the savages talk and all that stuff. I hated it, and they just like unload into one of them in the water, and it's like, Aah! And I just like, and then she starts crying, and
because it was her. I just like I can't. I'll tell you what. I also I got to give it up for Joel David Moore, who is in this movie again and doing his best, and I like him from Bones, so I want him to keep getting a paycheck. So good there. I enjoyed two characters in this movie, and they were Kiri and I guess Soraya, who was the daughter,
the like ocean princess. I don't have one single grip on. I got Kiri and Spider. Yeah. Those are the two that I got.
She was voiced by Bailey Bass, who did Claudia in the new Interview with the Vampire show.
But she was the only one.
Fantastic.
Like the hostility, I hated that. Like I hated how much. Like, and I get that they're different tribes, but it's like I hated how they were picking on them.
Yeah,
and also that they didn't comprehend basic like. They are instructed by their parents to teach them how to swim.
Yeah.
And
their parents being the king and queen.
Yeah. And they cannot wrap their minds around how these people can't swim, except for Soraya, you said?
Yeah.
And she's finally the one, because they literally like, you're going to be like babies. And it's like, this is going to be an undertaking.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that has any decorum or any like sense.
She's got the sweets for Loak.
She was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is something that I do want to, because again,
I liked the different color that they were like turquoise instead of blue. It was really cool.
Well, even their noses were different.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it was different.
It was really, and they had really big chests as well, because their lungs are different.
And their tails.
Yeah.
I liked all that.
They kept yanking on their tails. It's like so aggressive and mean. Like yanking.
And I just like the teenage bully thing. I just I didn't need it from Avatar.
No,
like
it's super weird.
Because they tried to murder Jake and Atiri's son by
Yeah.
having him eaten by some weird shark thing.
They were I think it was supposed to be just hazing, just like leaving him out there by himself.
I think they were perfectly fine with the fact that that thing was trying to eat him.
Well, they were gone, long gone by the time that happened.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't discount it completely, but I'm just saying that's what it seemed like to me. And then, God, and then he had that little romance with her. I don't know.
Which one died?
Nataeum? Yeah, the eldest son died. That was horrible as well, because Jake's a bad father. Let's put that out there in the first place. He's a bad father because he clearly favors the eldest one, and the younger one is always causing trouble and a burden and all of this shit. And so then he's like, Dad, let me help. And he literally goes, you've done enough. I can't with that shit. It's totally inappropriate. You know what you shouldn't do if that's how you're going to act? Have kids. Don't have kids if that's how you're going to act. I did like Kiri, though, the new Sigourney Weaver character. I like the potential for her character. She's just sort of weird and kind of different, and she's like magic.
She has powers, and she's cloned or born. She was born from Sigourney Weaver's Avatar, and there's this huge mystery as to what it is. And I'm like, it's Jesus. She's going to be a virgin or a immaculate conception.
I hate that.
There's no reality where that's not it. Because what's the other reality? Is that someone raped
the Avatar.
Yeah.
I hate that more, but
we don't love being buzzkills, and we find ourselves in this position more than
I wish we did.
More than we think we should, or we think is fitting for us.
The story the story was weak, the plot was bad. It was a waste of multiple actors. Yeah.
I would still watch another one. I would.
I mean, I guess.
If they get it down to a sensible 7 hours.
The current cut for the third one is 9 hours. I can't. No, I'm not doing that. If it's, I can't promise. No promises. Especially now if it's going to take another 13 years. I'm not waiting around for this.
Because we talked about it in our first one where it was like something that's supposed to be this big, this broad, this is meant to be a global crowd pleaser. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're getting tripped up. That's where some of these plot elements that we can't stand. I couldn't stand the oorah, the Semper Fi oorah of it all.
I mean, that is an actual Marine thing.
No, I know that. But it was to the point where I was like, is that actually, will that actually play to that audience, or will that audience feel pandered to? Because it was so corny, it was so cheesy.
Well, and they're just so comically the bad guys that how...
I enjoyed the action, the third act, where it kicked into high gear and they start decimating whalers. Because the one who gets his arm caught against the thing,
Scoresby,
that was fantastic. That stuff was
well, especially because the whale is the one doing it, which is very funny. The whale is like, "Fuck this shit." He basically has the equivalent of a child's tantrum where you knock everything off your shelves and you rip the clothes or the sheets off your bed and everything underwater in the reef. And then he's like, fuck it. And he's just like, whoosh, free willies over the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are things that were enjoyable to look at, but I just...
Because I actually was kind of laughing and cheering during some of those parts.
I think the issue for me is that I believe that things can have a broad appeal and still be well written.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sloppy. It's wall to wall, not even tropes. It's wall to wall cliches, And there's zero characterization. Nobody's gone through a character arc. Nobody has a personality. Everybody is just having whatever emotion like suits the
And like
scene you're in.
In a general sense, they are distinguishable from each other. Like I could tell the difference between them, but not in a way where I felt like I knew their characterization.
For sure.
Like I knew there were two boys and a girl, and I was even unclear that the littlest one was a girl until you told me like in the last 30 minutes of the movie. And so it was like they were constructs. But even that would be easier to root for. I don't know. It just did sort of turn into this like aqua blur.
There's the other thing too that's really annoying to me is that like at the end of the first one, we're supposed to be very moved that Jake has been accepted by the Na'vi and like his consciousness has been moved into the Avatar body and everything's fantastic and he feels like at one with the people. And then at the end of this one, he's like, we are sea people now. And I was like, are you just gonna like go from quadrant to quadrant,
destroying the lives of
I don't understand what the
no
point.
Good be of people rescuing you from this vendetta.
I just don't know what the point is supposed to be, and I think it is also sloppy getting to nowhere.
Because my issue is that given that we watched 3 hours of this, I should have known Saria's name, and I should have known which one of the brothers she was romantically linked, and I should have gotten a sense of who they were and their relationship other than being able to identify that's the teenage son and the teenage daughter and they're together because they made eyes at each other.
That's literally it. That's all that happened. There was nothing else.
They needed to court each other. Like we needed to actually...
There's no there. And honest to God, the fact that at no point in the intervening, let's be generous and say 13 years, Neytiri hasn't left Jake and decided she can't spend her life with such a buffoon.
Why was she so ready to kill Spider?
To get her daughter back.
But I don't know. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of that. And she went like feral. I thought that was kind of offensive.
Especially because Spider and Kiri are like in love with each other.
Yeah. Are they?
They are
kind of got that.
Very connected in some way. I don't know, man. At one point, the younger son does the tail fucking with a whale, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm watching. He goes inside the whale's mouth, and it like unfurls from its uvula. I'm baffled.
We weren't high. That's the problem.
I was not high.
No, but that's the problem. Let's get high and try and give this another go.
I'm not doing this for another 3 hours.
It didn't have to be this way.
No. We also easily could have shaved a full hour off this movie, and it would have been.
I was about to say, I think another factor here is that James Cameron, I think we're dealing with a more competent George Lucas situation with the prequels.
Yeah.
I think that he's so high on his own supply that there's going to be 5 10-hour movies, I guess, that maybe he's just counting on the character work happening later, or
you have to start it somewhere.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing too, is like in this intervening time between the first one and this one, that the time that passes within the world, nobody has changed. Nobody's character has changed. Nobody's motivations are different. Nothing has changed. Quaritch is just, literally, this entire movie is just a revenge plot.
Yeah, I was
really, really weak revenge plot.
Yeah, considering the moral of the utopia of the first one.
Yeah.
This was very, like, this was a Mel Gibson movie, you know what I mean? Like, this was like I'm gonna protect my family, and not without my son. And
there was a lot of, like, a man's job is to protect his family, and I'm like, is it?
Yeah, I was like, no, a man's job is to lead. Like a father's job is to like set an example.
Teach and lead,
it's not.
And then in the first place, you're also not doing any protecting. Neytiri is the one who's like fucking balls deep in this. Like, I don't know. And then it was like, there was a very tender moment. She realized she broke her father's bow that he gave her to like protect the clan or whatever. And it's broken. But that was like, in a movie that's 3 hours and 12 minutes long, that 15-second shot is like not huge, but it's like, why did that happen? We didn't have there was not really any buildup and there was no come down from that, but it was definitely placed in a position to be made a focal point. I don't know. I was very disappointed.
It looked fantastic. It really did.
It did look at I think it did look better.
I'm excited to see some of this technology trickle down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
For my money, this doesn't need to be 9-foot tall blue humanoids and stuff. Like, I would have just rather watched a Final Fantasy movie.
Sure.
With like a castle and
Yeah.
like a spaceship, and you know what I mean? Like, I think he's a little too, like, I think he thinks it's science. Like, I think he thinks, and I know that there's conservation stuff, and I know that in large swaths, this franchise has done a lot of good. But at the end of the day, I would much rather watch a fairy tale than whatever this is.
I'd rather watch Happy Feet.
I can't go that far.
If we're doing ocean conservation,
I can't go that far.
I'm
fine with that. This may or may not come up again. I don't know if I'm going to, because I don't think I was going to go see it again with my mom, and I don't know that I can subject her to the.
You're
whale.
on your own, Teresa.
No, I don't think.
Oh, the whale.
I think she would walk out. I don't
Yeah.
think she would watch that.
It would be like what did she leave us in?
I Am Legend.
She left us in I Am Legend and went walked into something else. I don't remember what it was.
Whatever it was funny. Because she went to the bathroom like 20 minutes in, and she saw somebody there and was like, who had already seen it. Like, she interacted with a person who had already seen it, and she was like, "Does the dog die?" And they were like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, Juno, she went to go see Juno."
Yeah.
And I got a text with his mom's like, "I'm not coming back. I'll meet you guys." Like,
ridiculous.
So I may not be seeing this again. I don't know.
Not for me. In order to get me invested in a third one, I would have to hear a lot of good stuff about the script before I go to see it. Although people are talking great about this script, and I don't understand because I think it was trash. So, come at me. Well, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and if you want to just give us a pile of money and we'll stop talking about movies. I mean, I know.
It's in your hands.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.